Part 124. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1231. As for the true destiny, they had no chance to see it, so they could not use it as a reference, so it was very difficult for them to construct the true destiny. After all, it was very difficult to construct something that had never been seen before, even with Lin Yi's explanation. Ring ring ring. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. The welcome bell suddenly rang, and a voice pushed the door open from outside. The figure was full of alcohol, looked drunk, and the whole person was filled with a sad mood, which was very conspicuous. Lin Yi looked up at the guest, a woman in a black short skirt. Long hair draped over the shoulders, black tight skirt, white long legs stepping on a pair of fishmouth high heels, a hunchback on the face, a little staggering walked in. Her facial features are very delicate, beautiful face with light makeup, absolutely a first-class beauty. But at this time, there seemed to be some light traces of tears on her face. It was obvious that she had just cried, and she was full of alcohol and must have drunk a lot of wine. Bang! The woman sat down at the bar. A crisp and charming voice sounded, "You, give me a bottle of wine, the strongest one." Her eyes were blurred, and she was about to lie on the bar, looking at the brandy on the bar. A hint of inexplicable teasing appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Handsome guy, I asked you to serve the wine." The whole Wanchi room was silent, and everyone looked at Brandy with a smile. Brandy looked at the beautiful woman in front of him, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and a serious smile hung on his face. "Hee, sir, we don't sell alcohol here." Hearing this, the woman's face changed slightly, and then suddenly said sadly, "Don't sell alcohol? How disappointing. I want to get drunk, men are not good. Why don't men die?" As she spoke, the woman's voice was filled with a crying tone, looking like a woman who was hurt by love, cursing the man who let her down. At this time, Lin Yi's plain voice sounded, "Brandy, don't I have a bottle of precious wine? Take it out and pour it for this guest." Hearing Lin Yi's words, everyone in the Wanchaiwu was slightly stunned. Lin Yi almost never interfered with the specific operation of the Wanchaiwu, but now it seemed a little wrong to say this suddenly. Everyone was slightly stunned, and then Brandy smiled. "Since the boss said so, there is another bottle of collected wine here, which can be sold to you." As he said, he turned around and took out a bottle of special wine from under the counter. This wine was randomly selected by Lin Yi when he revived the Wanchaiwu, and he also spent a little bit of mysterious light. Mainly because he hadn't tasted the taste of spiritual wine for a while. He was greedy, so he consumed a little mysterious light when he revived the Wanchaiwu. The bottle of this wine is a jade structure, which looks very much like an ancient wine bottle. The woman had never seen it before, and there was a hint of surprise in her eyes. I saw Brandy took out a cup, opened the bottle and gently poured a cup. A strong fragrance instantly filled every corner of Wanchi. The woman, who was originally sleepy, gloomy, and full of sadness, was attracted by the fragrance. She stared at the wine glass that Brandy put in front of her. The woman's face was confused, and it took a long time to recover. "This wine is really fragrant, I have never smelled such good wine." Lin Yi smiled faintly on the side, "This is a special brewed wine, only here in the whole world." The woman's face showed a hint of intoxication, and she raised her hand to gently pick up the wine glass. "This is a glass wine glass, the wine is amber, and there seems to be some stars twinkling in it, which is very beautiful, like a work of art." She put the wine glass to her lips and drank it suddenly. Then, his face showed unspeakable amazement and intoxication. "It's so delicious." In Lin Yi's eyes, the woman in front of him was completely filled with black lines, the deepest part of her body. A true life was entangled in countless black lines, and these lines penetrated into the true life like blood vessels. The true life has become a little deformed and swollen under the influx of black lines. Seeing this scene, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. The woman in front of him was not a human, but a strange story whose behavior was completely similar to that of humans. When Brandy said that alcohol could not be sold here, the black lines in the woman's body were stirring rapidly, which was a sign of an outbreak. That's why Lin Yi directly said that there was still wine here, and even asked Brandy to take out the spirit wine. He didn't want this strange story to break out here, so he used the best wine to see if he could stop the consequences of this mysterious strange story. If he couldn't do that, he could only bring Brandy and the others back to their spiritual state to prevent them from dying. After all, facing the ghost story, they had no chance to fight against it without their true lives. After drinking the wine, the black lines in the woman's body seemed to stop twisting. Her voice gradually became low, her eyes were vague, and she said slowly, "What a good wine, I've never drunk it before. It's really satisfying, I hope I can drink it again next time." As she spoke, the mysterious woman's face suddenly changed from beautiful to distorted. Then she turned around and jumped down from the bar seat, staggering and walking out of the Wanchaiwu in a daze. The moment she walked out of the Wanchaiwu, she turned into countless black lines and disappeared. Everyone in the Wanchaiwu who saw the scene was shocked, and their eyes fell on Lin Yi. "Boss, what is that?" "You guessed right, it's a strange story, but I didn't expect that there would be a strange story coming to the door. This kind of strange story is really interesting." Less than 5 minutes after this mysterious strange story disappeared, a car had stopped outside the Wanchaiwu. Zhao Hengxia walked in with a serious face, and her eyes fell on Lin Yi. "What's the matter with the fluctuation of strange stories found here just now?" Lin Yi looked at Zhao Hengxia, and did not hide it, but directly told him what he saw. Zhao Hengxia's face was ashen, looking at Lin Yi and said, "This is the 4th strange incident this year and the 3rd this month, and they all happened in Furong City." Hearing this news, Lin Yi's eyebrows jumped. Any explanation? In this world, strange incidents will break out every once in a while. Each outbreak will bring about a huge disaster. Most of these strange incidents will disappear after a period of time. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1232. Usually when there are the most weird stories, that's when a worldwide catastrophe begins. And when ghost stories occur frequently, it is very likely that S-level ghost stories will appear, and there may even be SS-level monsters, leading to the destruction of civilization. It is said that we humans are already the 5th era civilization. There have been 4 highly developed civilizations before us. But in the end they all seem to be destroyed because of the strange incident. The legendary flood seems to be a strange event that destroyed the civilization of the 4th age. In layman's terms, this could very well be a sign of the end. When Lin Yi heard the information leaked by Zhao Hengxia, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, with a hint of complexity on his face. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. He found that he seemed to be like a disaster star. Everywhere he went, he would experience disasters like the end of the world. It seems that not long after I returned to Blue Star, the end of the strange incident occurred here again. Am I bringing disaster back to Blue Star? Although he was joking in his heart, he was also vigilant. After all, Blue Star is different from other places. This is his hometown, and he does not want his hometown to be completely destroyed. Moreover, the strange incident was so extraordinary that even he could not guarantee that he would survive. We can only do our best and hope to be able to launch True Life as soon as possible, so that we can completely gain a foothold. Lin Yi looked at Zhao Hengxia and nodded slowly, so that's it, I understand. What's next? Zhao Hengxia looked at Lin Yi and said, we want to deepen our cooperation with you and open up all the information database of ghost stories to you. You can pick a lot of ghost stories and look for the types that you can solve. Minimize the number of ghost stories and try to control the outbreak of ghost stories this time. When Lin Yi heard this, his eyes showed a hint of surprise, and he looked at Zhao Hongxia and said, "You are quite generous, but it doesn't seem to be of much benefit to me, right?" Zhao Hongxia looked at Lin Yi solemnly. "People of the bright side don't speak secretly. You have been looking for various ghost stories and solving them. In fact, you will do this even without us. You are very eager for ghost stories. There must be your reason for this. The current situation does not allow us to have too much delay. So I am sincerely extending an invitation to you for cooperation on behalf of the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau. We will provide you with all the support you want in the future, and we only want you to do one thing and do our best to reduce the number of ghost stories." Looking at Zhao Hongxia with a solemn expression, Lin Yi frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. "I need to think about it." Zhao Hongxia nodded slightly. "Okay, let me know if you have any news." As Zhao Hongxia left, everyone's eyes fell on Lin Yi. Just listen to Shirley Sakuramiya say, "I feel like this weird incident is a bit weird. It's just like the era when the Red Lotus world's spiritual energy was revived. Various strange events appear one after another, and at the same time, a large number of powerful people are springing up. As far as I'm concerned, you don't have to be so nervous. You can just wait and see how things develop. If we really have to take action, we should wait until the situation reaches a point where we have to take action." Hearing this, Absinthe on the side said with a strange expression, "There is no need for the store manager to take risks for these people. I can clearly feel that this woman has bad intentions. I'm afraid she has no intention of letting you die together with these strange incidents." He, you think so, right?" Absinthe looked at everyone with a twisted look on his face. Even though he was now in a human body and no longer the wraith of the past, his twisted personality still hadn't changed. Lin Yi rolled his eyes at him. "Do you still need to say this? I'm just thinking that it's not enough to give full support. I don't think they can solve this weird incident at all. I'm just thinking about what benefits I can get from these things, benefits that can truly transcend me." As expected of a boss, he always does it for the benefit, said Lafite Redwine on the side with a strange expression on his face. At this time, the appearance of Lafite Redwine was the same as that of Absinthe, looking like a boy of 15 or 16 years old. Their nature remains unchanged, twisted and dark. The others just looked at them calmly. Lin Yi sat alone in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the sky that should have been black, but was slightly brighter under the neon lights of the city. Shaking his head slightly, when a disaster is imminent, who can survive alone? After all, my strength is not enough. If I had enough strength, there would be no need to be timid here. From the Red Lotus realm to the world group, and then to the entire void, there are countless places of life. I have escaped countless times. If it weren't for the gate of truth, I would have died. Blue Star seems to be uneasy now. Although it may not be a catastrophe, disasters that can destroy civilization cannot be taken lightly. Since we can't avoid it, we naturally have to face it head on. First, use the power of the Abnormal Event Investigation Bureau to collect all kinds of strange incidents and find the types that can be solved by me to increase the upper limit of the spiritual wave. Second, the God-given criminals detained by the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau can be used as samples for my research on true destiny. These 2 points are enough for now. Thinking of this, he had already made a decision in his heart, and a hint of determination appeared in his eyes. Early in the morning of the second day, Lin Yi informed Zhao Hongxia that he was willing to cooperate deeply with them, and also put forward his own research requirements on God-given criminals. He also received a reply that he could study God-given criminals in any region. However, he could only conduct research at the location where the God-given was located, in order to prevent the God-given from escaping from prison and reduce the consumption of manpower and material resources. Lin Yi was naturally not satisfied with this result, so he proposed a rotation system. That is, new God-givens can be constantly exchanged, which can not only control the consumption of manpower and material resources, but also ensure that the God-given cannot escape from prison and cause chaos. After they reached an agreement, the cooperation officially began. At night, in the basement of the Wanchaiwu, a huge screen appeared here. Lin Yi, brandy, Lafite, red wine, vodka, whiskey, absinthe, Sakuramiya sherry, Laowei, gin, etc., all the people who have recovered came here. They all looked at the screen in front of them, and the screen flashed with files. Lin Yi said, "From now on, our task is to sort out all the strange events passed on by the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1233. Pick out the types that can be solved by us. Then after I sort out these ghost stories that can be solved in a short time, I will arrange for you to do various auxiliary preparations. Everyone may be very busy next, but with your current abilities, as long as you are not directly in contact with ghost stories, most things can be solved safely. Basically, you have only one task, to assist me in completing all the events. Next, you must carefully understand and read this information, remember it firmly in your mind, and tell me if you find anything. Looking at Sakuramiya Shirley and others, do you have any questions? I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Everyone answered silently, "No problem." Lin Yi nodded slightly, and then they began to sort out all the events. A third-tier city in the north, this is an old apartment. Wang Fuhua walked out of the apartment in a dusty state. It was already 7 o'clock in the evening, the sky was dim, the sunset was afterglow, and there was almost no light. After a hard day, he finally got home. There was a huge snowstorm outside, and it was winter now. Here, winter work is the most difficult and requires a lot of physical strength and energy. Wang Fuhua tightened his coat and walked up the stairs to the third floor. There was a lot of frost on the ground, all left by water vapor. Arrived at the door of his house, Wang Fuhua slowly opened the door, and a wave of hot air hit him in the face. The heating in the house has been turned on, otherwise the cold air will make countless icicles grow throughout the house. After closing the door, Wang Fuhua took off his clothes happily and hung them on the hanger next to him. He shouted into the room, "Wife, I'm back." With a smile on his face, he walked towards the living room, but he didn't see his wife. Wang Fuhua is a middle-aged man, about 40 years old. He has short black hair, many wrinkles on his face, and his skin is very rough. It is obvious that he is not engaged in a high-quality job. He frowned and shouted, "Wife, are you cooking?" With a hint of doubt in his eyes, he walked towards the kitchen. When he entered the kitchen, he saw a bloody scene. A man covered in blood, wearing an apron, holding a machete in his hand, was chopping meat on the ground. When Wang Fuhua saw this scene, his eyes fell on the ground. There was no one being chopped. At this time, his wife stood up covered in blood and turned to look at him. This was his wife, wearing a white apron, a home outfit, a single ponytail, a middle-aged woman in her 30s. Her face was stained with blood, and she was smiling at him normally. "Husband, you are back, sit down first, I'm cooking." At this time, Wang Fuhua looked at her with a hint of blame on his face. "Really, how did you get your whole body dirty? You have to be clean even when cooking." Wang Fuhua had a doting look on his face, with a twisted and weird smile on his face. Then I'll go to the living room and wait for you. Hurry up and prepare dinner. I'm already very hungry. His wife smiled slightly. Don't worry, I know. At this time in the kitchen, in addition to the corpse on the ground, there were two cleaned corpses hanging near the refrigerator. This is an extremely horrifying scene. It looks like a slaughterhouse. At this time, outside this elderly apartment, three people appeared in a building facing this family. Lin Yi, Brandy, and Zhao Hengxia, they actually hid here. Bringing Brandy here, Lin Yi wanted him to get familiar with the world of ghost stories. Zhao Hengxia said slowly on the side. This time the ghost story incident is called the male and female killer. These two are killers who roam around the north. They often sneak into some families, kill the family, and then replace them. And the people who are killed will become their meat, and after a week, they will move. They carefully select their targets every time, and Wang Fuhua is the husband of the two. Every day he goes out and looks for the next target within a dozen kilometers nearby. Originally, this pair of male and female killers have been brought to justice and publicly executed. But for some reason, they have become a brand new strange story and are repeating their past deeds. Lin Yi nodded on the side, looking at Brandy. Do you have any ideas to get rid of them? Brandy also saw what happened in the room through the telescope, and his face was slightly solemn. According to the information we have obtained, the reason why these two male and female killers became like this seems to be performing some kind of ritual. They believe in a dangerous sect and believe that life is bred from the human body. On the surface, they seem to want to prolong their lives by devouring human lives. But in fact, I'm afraid that's not the case. I've looked through the doctrines of that dangerous sect, and some other content. I found that there are many explanations for taking lives in that section. One of them I think is very important. Zhao Hengxia looked at Brandy, with a strange look in her eyes. Brandy was the first person to appear beside Lin Yi. She was also an illegal resident with no identity or origin. She was always curious about these mysterious people. She couldn't help but ask, what information is important? Growing new life. Growing new life, what does that mean? Zhao Hengxia's eyes showed confusion. Brandy picked up the tablet in her hand and quickly turned to a page of information. This pair of male and female killers were not like this at the beginning. They were a very ordinary and loving couple, but they went to the hospital and were diagnosed as infertile. 3 years later, they suddenly began to believe in a strange section. The doctrine of the sect happens to have a doctrine that new life can be bred by devouring other lives. I think they may not kill people just for the sake of killing or prolonging their lives, but to give birth to an offspring. Even if they are dead, this obsession seems to still drive them to become ghost stories. So, if you want to solve this problem, the simplest way is only one. Use their cells to give birth to a new life, that is their child. Even if it is not born by them, as long as the child has their blood. That means their obsession will be disintegrated, cutting off the logic of their existence from the root. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1234. As he said, he looked at Lin Yi, I have found the ashes of these two people. Read. There are still some dead cells left in their bone marrow, and it should be possible to extract enough to synthesize an embryo. With your power, boss, you should be able to create a life. When the time comes, as long as you bring this life in front of them, they will naturally eliminate the starting point of all logic. Lin Yi heard this, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. You are really amazing, you can actually find these things. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Give it to me. Brandy smiled slightly, picked up 2 urns from the ground, and placed them in front of him. Lin Yi raised his hand and waved, using the power of the magnetic field to open the 2 urns, and everything inside was instantly presented. In his eyes, the brilliance of the true destiny solution flashed, and in an instant, he captured a lot of things. With the power of the magnetic field, 2 dead cells were extracted and floated in front of him. Then, the power of the immortality of the true destiny flashed, and in an instant, the 2 cells reappeared in this world from death. With the cooperation of the power of the true destiny and the magnetic field, half of the DNA in the 2 cells was split out, and then the remaining 2 cells directly merged together. 23 pairs of new DNA chromosomes appeared in the cell nucleus, consisting of half of the genetic material of the male and female killers. Then, the power of the true destiny was running, everything was converted into nutrients, and the cells began to proliferate rapidly. Countless gaseous substances in the air were inhaled and transformed into cells. Zhao Hongxia, who was standing aside, looked at Lin Yi in shock. This method of subverting cognition was simply unbelievable to her. In an instant, countless cells constructed a complete baby form. But this baby did not have any consciousness, just a body with a human life form. Lin Yi's magnetic field and thoughts turned into an invisible consciousness and entered this body. With the integration of magnetic fields and the infusion of consciousness, the new life seemed to have a starting point, and the baby exuded a brand new breath of life. Zhao Hongxia was extremely shocked and trembled slightly. This was simply creating life out of thin air. After Lin Yi finished everything, he looked at Zhao Hongxia and Brandy. "Wait for me here, I'll go and deal with them." After saying that, Lin Yi took a step forward, and under the power of the boundless destiny, he had turned into a shadow. When he appeared again, he had come to the door of the room where the male and female killers were. Dong dong dong. The door was knocked slowly. Creak. Wang Fuhua opened the door and looked at Lin Yi outside the door, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. "Who are you? What do you want to do with me?" Lin Yi showed a faint smile on his face. "Of course I have something to do with you, don't you want me to come in?" Wang Fuhua suddenly showed a bright smile on his face, with cruelty flashing in his eyes. "Of course, no problem." As he said that, he kindly made way and Lin Yi walked in with a faint smile. At this time, Wang Fuhua's wife Li Sufen, who was wearing an apron and covered in blood, stood at the kitchen door, holding a bloody knife in her hand, staring at him. Seeing Li Sufen covered in blood, Lin Yi's face was calm. He had been holding the baby in his left hand, but the baby was wrapped in thick clothes and they could not see anything. Lin Yi stood in the living room, and Wang Fuhua and Li Sufen surrounded him one after another. Both of their faces showed a kind of distortion, and Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, and he looked at them quietly. In his eyes, the 2 people's bodies flashed with distorted true destiny, which was parasitized by countless black lines. Lin Yi said with a smile, "Wang Fuhua, Li Sufen, hello. Let me introduce myself, my name is Lin Yi. Running this Wanchaiwa can make anyone's wish come true, as long as you pay enough." Hearing this, Li Sufen and Wang Fuhua suddenly stopped, and they both looked at Lin Yi with a strange look. Li Sufen suddenly said, "Can you make wishes come true?" "Of course, and it is 100% fulfillment of wishes." "Of course, you need to pay a price." Li Sufen was silent for a while after hearing this, and suddenly said, "I want a child of my own. Can you do it?" Lin Yi smiled slightly, "Of course there is no problem. This is a very easy thing." Wang Fuhua, who was standing at the gate, was slightly shaken, and his face showed a ferocious and expectant look. "What do you want?" Lin Yi looked at them with a bright smile on his face. "What I want is very simple, I want your true destiny. As long as you are willing to sign a contract and use your true destiny as an exchange, you can get a child with your blood." Hearing this, the 2 who had become ghost stories and were once human were trembling all over, and they couldn't tell whether they were excited or something else. Li Sufen even took a few steps forward and said excitedly to Lin Yi, I am willing to do anything. Although I don't know what the true destiny is, you can take it if you want it. Her face was distorted at this time. Although he had become a ghost story, he still seemed to have some wisdom. However, once it came to their obsession, they would lose their minds. Lin Yi showed a bright smile on his face, and with a wave of his hand, a contract appeared in his hand. With the appearance of the Wan Shiwu, the contract of the Wish Shrine could still be used. It's just that the power of the contract is no longer some mysterious existence in the strange land, but has become the power of the Wan Shiwu itself. The power of the contract itself is not for restraint, but through the power of the contract, the true life will be left in the real world. However, this is just an attempt. After all, the true life of every dead human will be pulled into another time and space level. This kind of pulling force, Lin Yi wanted to try whether it could be cut off through the contract. And this would also confirm one of his conjectures. Looking at the contract in front of him, Li Sufen raised her bloody hand without hesitation and pressed the handprint at the signature position. Wang Fugui, who was standing aside, also walked over with a distorted face. He reached out and wiped Li Sufen's blood-stained clothes, and then pressed his handprint on the contract. Then, a strange scene happened. The contract ignited without wind and turned into a mysterious force. This force instantly enveloped them, and they were connected with Lin Yi in the dark. And the emergence of this connection made Lin Yi slightly relieved, at least the contract could still be signed. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1235. As the contract was signed, Lin Yi looked at Li Sufen and Wang Fuhua. Reading. He waved his left hand slightly, and the clothes that had been covering his hands were swept aside by him. Then, a naked baby was exposed in front of the two. Looking at the baby in Lin Yi's hand, Li Sufen and Wang Fuhua's eyes bulged, and they stretched out their hands tremblingly. The moment the clothes were lifted, the two felt a sense of blood connection. Even Wang Fuhua beside him trembled all over. The two of them walked over with twisted faces, stiff like zombies. And Lin Yi put the baby in their hands, and the two protagonists of the strange incident touched the baby. What they saw was a sleeping child, the distortion on his face slowly disappeared, and the whole person seemed to have become a kind parent. They squatted on the ground together, holding the baby in their four hands, and the eyes of the two seemed to have regained human reason. "Child, we have a child." While mumbling to themselves, their bodies were changing rapidly. Countless black lines were disintegrating. Their bodies were becoming illusory, until finally they left only a trace of echoing words. "We finally have a child." Two illusory and happy faces disappeared in Lin Yi's eyes. Only an orphan lying on the ground was left, and there was also a pure mysterious light. Lin Yi walked over a few steps, stretched out his hand to grab the light in his hand, and took it into his heart. At the same time, he felt two true lives, floating quietly in front of him. These two true lives were slowly becoming dim and illusory at this time. Some force was pulling them and falling into another level. Lin Yi could feel that the power of the contract was entangled in the two true lives, pulling them madly. He felt the huge and boundless power of this power. If he continued to struggle, he seemed to be countered by this power. In the end, he gave up the control of this power and let the two true lives disappear from his sight. But the power of the contract has been entangled in the two true lives, and he saw a wonderful scene. The two true lives entered a place full of light. The light was bizarre and seemed like a fairyland. Countless magnificent objects flashed in his mind. Then, the two true destinies changed, and two figures slowly emerged with the true destinies as the center. One of them had a green light on his head, a tall hat and a formal dress, and looked about 30 years old. His black hair was draped over his shoulders, and he was filled with a kind of infinite light. He looked like an ordinary person. However, this person had a cold face and no emotional fluctuations. The other one was wearing a big red robe, with a cold face and long hair hanging down. The whole person was filled with a blood-red light, and his indifferent eyes swept around wantonly, as if he didn't care about anything. At this time, a brilliant light appeared in this mysterious place of infinite light. This light instantly enveloped the two figures of the true destinies. Then, the picture in Lin Yi's mind disappeared directly, and the power of the contract was cleared. A trace of shock flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. He saw something. Sure enough, the true destiny seems to have another place to go after their earthly bodies die. This world really hides many secrets. Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of excitement. He found two special places. The true destiny of the strange events whose roots I cut off seemed to go to a place of infinite light. The true destiny of the strange events that I destroyed by using their own rules seemed to go to a place full of darkness, flames, and thick smoke. Why does this look a bit like heaven and hell? Eastern mythology has immortals and the underworld. Western mythology is heaven and hell. Even Buddhism has the Western paradise and the six paths of reincarnation. What does all this seem to indicate? At this time, Lin Yi was using his knowledge reserves and associative ability. He vaguely felt that the destination of life, or the transit point, was these two places. They seemed to represent different destinations of true destiny. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and he finally shook his head. Not enough information. There must be a lot of information hidden in it that I don't know. More research is needed to find out the truth. At this time, Lin Yi looked at the baby on the ground, raised his hand and waved, retracting the magnetic field and consciousness he had divided. At the same time, the baby quickly lost the fluctuations of life and turned into the original pure meat. Then, under the power of the magnetic field, it directly disintegrated and turned into a pile of pure material residues. Things made temporarily must be destroyed after use. Looking at this empty house, his eyes swept across the kitchen that looked like a slaughterhouse, and shook his head slightly. There are really many secrets in the ghost story. He disappeared here in a flash, and when he appeared again, he had returned to the room where Brandy and the others were. Let's go, the things here have been resolved, let's go to the next place. Zhao Hongxia looked at the returning Lin Yi and the disappearing fluctuations in the house opposite, with shock in her eyes. The shock that Lin Yi brought to her was simply wave after wave, and no power could stop him. 1 month passed in the blink of an eye, and Lin Yi was like a model worker, leading the people of Wanchaiwu and running around the world. More than 40 D-class incidents have been solved, which has brought huge shock to the Anomalous Event Investigation Bureau throughout the world. You know, the entire Anomalous Events Investigation Bureau has compiled statistics on almost all strange incidents in the world. Among them, there are only about 3,000 D-level ghost stories in total. Lin Yi only spent a month to solve nearly 1% of the problem. This efficiency far exceeds that of the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau. Lin Yi's actions have also attracted a lot of attention, and high-level officials around the world have noticed his existence. A mysterious underground palace. This palace is very huge, hidden deep underground, and it doesn't look like an ordinary place. Each corridor column is carved with countless yin and yang stone carvings, and a mysterious atmosphere permeates the entire palace. In the palace at this time, there was a young man wearing a white coat, gold-rimmed glasses, a full head of short blonde hair, slightly permed and dyed, and a handsome face walking on the street that was definitely a first-rate beauty. The man sat at the head of a long table, with about a dozen people sitting on each side, all of them different. Some are arrogant, some are indifferent, some are smiling, some are taciturn, they are tall or short, male or female. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1236. Their eyes all fell on the person in the first seat. Just listen to one of the women, about 30 years old, speak slowly. Mr. Doctor, what do you think of Lin Yi's existence? Based on the information we have collected so far, it is obvious that he is definitely not an ordinary God-given person. Having mastered so many types of true power, among all the known God-given abilities, only the legendary figures have it. A faint smile appeared on the doctor's face. He is indeed a mysterious person, very similar to ancient beings. Among the 4 eras of civilization that have disappeared, only the king of civilization can achieve this. In the first solar age, the Zhondia civilization was a civilization that was said to be able to master God-given abilities from birth. It was born with a third eye, and its true life would awaken with the opening of the eye. They are extremely powerful. Legend has it that the strongest among them can even master the 6 true powers, sweep all things, and overwhelm an era. He is called the King of Zhondia. The Mesopotamian civilization of the second solar period is said to be the descendant of the first solar civilization. They have highly developed technology, although their third eye has been lost. During that period, the Earth was in a kind of special status. And this special state, after scientific research and matching, has found the recipe to unlock the God-given power hidden in the human body. By ingesting this wonderful state of matter from the bodies of animals and plants, this civilization finally regained control of the God-given power of life and pushed civilization back to the heights of the first era. In the third solar calendar, after the demise of the Mesopotamian civilization, their descendants lost their great technological power. But they retained a mysterious formula that could unlock the power of true life to a certain extent, and then relied on true life to rebuild advanced technological power. However, after 2 disasters, their civilization could never recover to its original state. The original height was eventually destroyed by the war. In the 4th season of Civilization Atlantis, it is said that they are not a native race of the Earth, but a mysterious race that has mastered the power of light. They were born with the ability to master the true power related to light. They came to the Earth for unknown reasons. In order to maintain the development of the race, they intermarried with the Earth's civilized races, but they suddenly disappeared at a certain period. And now, in Season 5, it is a civilization that truly belongs to us humans. In ancient times, various saints emerged endlessly. We contacted nature, understood the principles of nature, inspired our hidden true destiny, and stood at the pinnacle of countless histories. The Taoist ancestors of Taoism, the ancient Buddha, the sages of the West, and the ancient gods of the African continent, they are all deified human beings. And these beings are all the best among the powerful true destiny people. It is said that the Taoist ancestors' 1 Qi transformed into the 3 pure ones represents the 4 types of true destiny power. The Buddha's nirvana and rebirth, holding the Buddha's kingdom in his palm, seem to be different types of true power. Among all these civilizations and strong men, there is the true power of life involved. This is the true and eternal place of all civilizations. The reason why all civilizations and great figures died and were destroyed is because no one has ever truly grasped the mystery and source of true life. True destiny is the origin and end of everything. In ancient legends, the more true lives you have, the more powerful you are. Now, we can see at least 5 traces of the true power of this mysterious Lin Yi. He is like the king of ancient civilizations, the saints who appeared in countless eras. I never believe that these saints will appear for no reason. They must be hiding something we don't know, so they can master so many types of true lives. So, my view now is to catch him and do everything possible to dig out his secrets. Coercion, inducement, any means can be used. As long as we can catch him, everyone here and I may touch the real eternity. Everyone present was moved by the doctor's words, with a hint of deep greed in their eyes. They long for true eternity, power, and eternal life more than anyone else. This is what they pursue throughout their lives. The doomsday cult, the reason why they want to destroy everything is to draw out the power buried in the secrets of this world. Because those mysterious beings hold all the mysteries, such as how they survived countless destructions and whether they have mastered eternity. Now a being who was suspected to be the king of civilization appeared in front of them, which naturally attracted their attention. There was a faint smile on the doctor's face. Next, the doomsday religion's first priority is to capture Lin Yi. The 12 people on the long table all had excited smiles on their faces and disappeared into the darkness one by one. Watching them disappear, an inexplicable smile appeared on the doctor's face. He, people without knowledge are always easily fooled. What epical civilization, what ancient saints, they are just awakening the original memory. These old antiques must have mastered some kind of power that allows them to stay awake throughout their endless reincarnations. This strange incident is really strange. It should never be a natural force. There is someone behind this. Those forerunners may have temporarily escaped the trap of reincarnation. The doctor's face was changing constantly. Indistinctly, his eyes seemed to reveal the vicissitudes of trillions of years, and he seemed to have countless memories. Obviously, he was not a normal human being, but some kind of ancient existence. For example, an alien life that crossed the gate of truth and came here. For some unknown reason, he retained his memory and did not fall into the mystery of the womb like most strong people. The doctor looked at the photo in front of him, which was Lin Yi's appearance. Who are you? Are you one of those ancient pioneers or a newcomer? It's really exciting. Let's try your quality first. If you can get rid of their entanglement, I will come to see you in person. The doctor's eyes showed a trace of plain scrutiny, as if thinking about something. After a month of hard work, Lin Yi has returned to the Wanchaiwu. He obtained a total of 40 balls of mysterious light. At this time, his ordinary true life state has increased by 50 times and can last for 16 or 17 hours. And this state is almost immune to most dangers. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1237. There are at least 300 remaining D-level events that he can solve, but it may take him more than half a year. These events have various problems and require time. Read. But he still has this time, so he is not too worried. After solving these events, the spiritual wave can almost support C-level or even B-level ghost stories. The mysterious light obtained by then can be placed on the eternal nature. He is also very satisfied with his recent gains. The support given to him by the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau is very powerful. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. As long as he needs, he can also take a fighter plane to and from any country. It greatly saves the longest time in the process of solving the incident. As his spiritual wave limit increases, the observation of Saint Yikangbai's true destiny is getting faster and faster. Basically, the whole picture of his true destiny has been analyzed by the True Destiny solution. As for the more subtle parts, it will take at least another week. At that time, he could formally start analyzing the immortality of the true destiny. He really began to understand what the true destiny is, and the true destiny handprint, how to transform the truth into the handprint. What he wanted to know most now was to figure out the essence of the Yiling Jing and how the eternal nature corresponding to each handprint was composed. This requires a lot of experiments. In this month, the other people in the Wanshiwu have been well trained. Each of them has been exposed to more than 3 strange events, and analyzed the whole process of solving each strange event. For strange events, they are not experts, but they have a deep understanding. And now they are constantly observing various low-level events and formulating solutions. In each of these plans, possible solutions will be given in detail and a detailed logical chain will be outlined. The people in the Wanshiwu are different from ordinary earthlings. Each of them has received a lot of knowledge, has mastered powerful powers, and has all reached the level of Tiangxiandeo. And this level has a unified symbol, that is, powerful computing power, and thinking ability is like a supercomputer. Even though they only have pure consciousness now, their consciousness is different from that of ordinary people. Ordinary human consciousness cannot think so deeply, and cannot converge into one, because their thinking all depends on the brain. Brandy and his thinking mode is purely conscious, relying on imagination and deduction within consciousness. This leads to their thinking speed, deduction speed, and observation ability far exceeding everyone in the world. These plans will eventually be sorted and archived, turned into a detailed document, and finally appear in Lin Yi's hands. Lin Yi will analyze their plans and summary contents, and use the true destiny solution for secondary reconstruction. The reason for the secondary reconstruction is to detect loopholes in their plans and confirm the correctness of the logical chain. After all, Lin Yi once made a wrong judgment in the Yushu apartment incident. The collected data alone does not necessarily lead to the logical chain or rule loopholes. These are just inferences. However, with these inferences, as long as the accuracy rate can reach more than 50%, it is also a huge gain for Lin Yi. However, so far, among the remaining 2,900 D-level ghost stories, even if several people work overtime and take turns, there are only less than 500 feasible plans that can be sorted out. And it would be good if half of these 500 plans are correct. Among the remaining ghost stories, there are still some that they cannot find loopholes or logical chains. These ghost stories can only be solved by Lin Yi or eliminated by time. Ghost stories do not exist forever. Generally, ghost stories have a periodicity. Some ghost stories will suddenly disappear after a period of time, and some ghost stories will exist for a long time. According to the information provided by the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau, 90% of ghost stories will disappear within a few decades. From this data, Lin Yi saw something else, combined with the unknown place where the true destiny disappeared that he observed. The strange events may have a source, and they did not appear for no reason. It is not just known and imagined by people. Some of their disappearances may be the true destiny of the strange events, entering the unknown level. For a whole month, he not only obtained a lot of mysterious light, but also observed the disappearance process of some true destiny. For the place where the true destiny disappeared, he had a vague sense in his heart, and the mysterious level had gradually been locked by him. There are usually two ways for him to solve strange events. One is to cut off the root of the logical chain, and the other is to use the loopholes in the rules to let them self-destruct. And the two results, after the strange events disappeared, the true destiny went to different places. One is a place of infinite light, and the other is a dark and terrifying place. This made him more and more suspicious of the existence of heaven and hell. Perhaps it is the true destination of the true destiny. During this period, in addition to observing the place where the true destiny disappeared after the destruction of the strange events, he was also observing where the true destiny of ordinary people would go after their death. For this reason, he went to the hospital specifically and saw the magical side again. When ordinary people die, their true destiny will disappear instantly and enter a vast and boundless torrent. That torrent is composed of countless true destinies, which shocked him greatly. The place where the torrent of true destiny is located is also an unknown mysterious level. Every time Lin Yi wants to lock it, he will consume a lot of spiritual waves. Every time he almost consumes all his spiritual waves, he may be able to see the mysterious torrent of true destiny. This is because his spiritual wave limit has grown dozens of times. Otherwise it is impossible to see the mysterious torrent of true destiny. And this also gave him a new guess. If places like hell, heaven, fairyland, and Hades really exist, then can we judge that the true fate flood may be the first place where all the true fate level strongmen who come to the universe of Blue Star landed? Then, they will reincarnate in this universe, and Blue Star is the only planet with life that I know of so far. But in the process of reincarnation, they may encounter some kind of accident, become a strange story or awaken God-given abilities. It is still unknown what the final outcome of the God-given ability is. but the results of the strange story are very clear. If they are cracked, they will go to places like heaven and hell, and even transform into human form again, which looks like they have found their memories and past. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1238. But if the Kaidan incident disappears on its own, it's hard to say what the outcome will be. What's the significance of this phenomenon? Countless questions flashed through Lin Yi's mind. In this world, everything has its cause and result, nothing happens without any reason. Lin Yi already had some thoughts about Blue Star and even the secrets contained in this universe. Looking at the sky outside the floor-to-ceiling window, Lin Yi planned to rest for 2 days before continuing to work. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days passed. This time Lin Yi and Absinthe, and Zhao Hongxia left Furong City and went to a small country in Southeast Asia. This small country is called Thailand Buddha Country. It is a tourist attraction that attracts tourists from all over the world. It is most famous for its Buddhist temples, beautiful sea areas and transvestite performances. Countless people gather here, and countless stories happen here every day. This is also the distribution center of the entire world's dark web. The dark web is an illegal zone under the Blue Star Network, where all kinds of evil transactions are carried out all the time. As long as you have money, you can buy anything you want here. Tigers, lions, women, even life, transplant organs, you can definitely buy them if you want them. These things are usually transferred through Thailand and Buddha, so under the prosperous tourism here, there is actually a darkness hidden. Coupled with the fact that the police in this country usually do nothing, this darknet business is developing in full swing here. Lin Yi, Zhao Hongxia, and Absinthe stepped off the plane and immediately smelled a strong smell of sea breeze. The place where their plane landed was in Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. The number of tourists here exceeds tens of thousands every day, and tourists from all over the world gather here. They got off the plane and came outside the airport. A man in a black suit had already walked over. This man has dark skin, a typical Southeast Asian face, high cheekbones, sharp eyes, and a murderous aura all over his body. He is very difficult to mess with. He is about 1.75 meters tall, but you can see that his shoulders, head, and fists are very thick. He moves like a dragon and a tiger, and every movement contains murderous intent. Soon he came to the front of the 3 people, clasped his hands, and gave a slight salute to them. His eyes fell on Zhao Hongxia, and he spoke fluent Chinese. "Hello, Captain Zhao, I am Power Dan from the Bangkok Abnormal Event Investigation Bureau. This time, I will be responsible for fully guiding your mission. You can tell me any questions you have and I will help you get it done." Zhao Hongxia smiled slightly, looked at Pavardan and nodded, "Okay, I'll leave everything to you, Mr. Pavardan. Now, let's go to the location of the Kaidan incident." Parvatan nodded slightly, "Please follow me." With that said, they got into a black jeep on the side of the street and quickly drove away from the airport towards downtown Bangkok. More than half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. The streets in Bangkok were very congested, so the speed inevitably slowed down. Finally, after spending half an hour, they came to a ruins. It was an abandoned apartment that looked like it had not been lived in for a long time, and there was dust everywhere. After stopping, Pawardan looked at the 3 of them and said with a heavy expression, "This is the apartment where the D-Class ghost story incident occurred, the death. Once you enter it, you will disappear completely and be included in death. So far, what we know is that it all started because of a murder that happened here. There is a group of hunters who came here through the dark web. They are all wealthy foreigners, in order to experience the fun of killing. They bought this abandoned apartment and scammed a couple through the dark web. The predators then pursued the 2 lovers and eventually killed them inside the apartment. But when the couple was killed, something happened. The predators were trapped here, and they were even seen outside the building. But the only problem is that they can't rush out of the building, as if there is an invisible wall restraining them. The most terrifying thing is that they were pulled into the apartment by an invisible force and strangled there. Although we have investigated the information here quite clearly, we still can't find the logical chain that can eliminate the strange talk. Logically speaking, the reason why this place appears is because of those hunters. They should be the source of hatred. But they were killed long ago. Logically speaking, the ghost story incident should disappear automatically, but in the end it has always existed here, which is very strange. Lin Yi looked at this strange apartment, which was entirely shrouded in faint black lines. A strange line floats in every corner of the apartment, like a spider web. Anyone who steps into it will be noticed immediately. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi's expression condensed slightly. He had already solved all the easy-to-solve ghost stories. The remaining ghost stories are more or less difficult. For example, after researching the death apartment in front of him, he found a possible causal chain. The real source of resentment in this strange incident is the person who tricked the couple into coming here. And the people who killed these lovers were just one of them. Lin Yi looked at Absinthe. Go and bring the source of everything. Absinthe nodded slightly and turned to look at Parvati. Come with me, let's find the root of this matter. Soon, only Lin Yi and Zhao Hongxia were left in front of the death apartment. This is a remote corner of Bangkok. There are not many people on the street, and many people deliberately avoid this road. Because there are many legends spread about this kind of building, everyone will be wary. At this time, many people had noticed Lin Yi and Zhao Hongxia. They were hiding on the side of the street, pointing at them and watching what. Some are curious, some are gloating, and some are full of indifference. Zhao Hongxia turned to look at Lin Yi. Have you found the logical chain of this strange incident? Lin Yi heard the words and said slowly, there is a certain possibility, but it is not complete. Just give it a try. If it fails, we will carry out the second plan and try to find the loopholes in the rules of this strange incident. Zhao Hongxia shook her head slightly when she heard this. Loopholes in the rules do not exist in every ghost story incident. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1239. For example, this strange incident is like a closed field. The rule of the field is that everyone who enters it will be killed and cannot escape. But this rule will not have any effect on the strange incident itself. I think the probability of solving it is very low. Zhao Hongxia's eyes were deep, expressing her own views. Lin Yi smiled when he heard it. What you said is indeed very reasonable from a common perspective. This strange incident does not seem to have any loopholes in the rules. However, the lack of loopholes in the rules does not mean that loopholes cannot be created by using the rules. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Zhao Hongxia was stunned for a moment, frowned and looked at him. Lin Yi's face was full of confidence, as if he had already found a solution. In the jeep, Parvati and Absinthe were moving forward. They were heading east of Bangkok. At this time, Absinthe was holding a document in his hand, which showed a man. This was a handsome man, who looked about 30 years old, wearing a suit, standing at a press conference and saying something, and seemed to have a high status. His information was written in Chinese on it. Paraman, the chairman of a large department store in Bangkok. He looked high-spirited and looked like a successful person. Absinthe's face flashed with a weird smile. Let's go find him. He is the executive director of the Ocean Department Store. Parvati seemed to have just finished a call at this time. I have contacted the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau, and his location has been sent to my mobile phone. We will find him within 20 minutes. At the same time, the police station's assistants in the investigation will also arrive at the scene at the same time. Absinthe nodded slightly after hearing this. That's good. By the way, if he resists, don't do anything, let me handle it. Payvadin nodded when he heard this. Absinthe had a weird smile on his face, which made him feel creepy. He always felt that this person was not normal, but because of work, he had to contact him, which made him very helpless. 20 minutes later, they finally arrived at the Ocean Department Store, one of the largest shopping malls in Bangkok. There are many people every day, and it is not too much to make a fortune every day. At this time, Payvadin and Absinthe stood under the Ocean building, and a police car had already arrived here. After getting off the car, Payvadin and Absinthe walked straight to the police car. Payvadin successfully obtained the order to assist in the investigation. Then, according to the information they received, they came to the top floor of the Ocean building accompanied by 2 policemen. At the same time, in the executive director's office on the top floor, Paraman had received the news and was frowning and making a phone call. Director Kolapa, I have a few policemen here. I don't know what they want to do. Can you ask them to leave? Don't disturb our company's work. The person on the other end of the phone said with a fake smile when he heard this. Mr. Paraman, I'm afraid it won't work this time, because the order comes directly from the Security Bureau. I don't have any right to ask him to come back, so please cooperate. I can only say that I hope you're fine. I hope you're not guilty. When Paraman heard this, he was shocked. Bang! The door of the office was suddenly pushed open. Absinthe, Payvadin, and 2 policemen walked in. Paraman hung up the phone with a gloomy look and looked at them coldly. What do you want to do? Absinthe looked at the man in front of him. The other party was now 30 years old, and he was in high spirits. Payvadin looked at Paraman in front of him and walked up directly. Mr. Paraman, this is the police station's assistant's order. Please come with us now. Alaman looked at the assistant's order in Payvadin's hand, and a trace of displeasure appeared on his face. But now he had no choice. Unless there was an official to help him, he couldn't refuse. Even if he had a lawyer, he had to wait until he got there to use it. This was justice, and everything had to be done according to the rules. The 2 spoke Thai, and Absinthe had mastered it through his super learning ability, so he could naturally understand what they were saying. He showed a twisted smile on his face, and looked directly at Payvadin. Let's go, take him over. Don't waste time, the manager is still waiting. Payvadin and Absinthe easily took Paraman out of the Ocean Department Store. With 2 police escorts, there was naturally no suspense. At this time, Lin Yi and Zhao Hongxia stood quietly in front of the door of the old apartment. Lin Yi would observe the apartment from time to time, looking for the source of all the strange events in the apartment. The whereabouts of the 2 lovers who were abducted here and killed. And in a residential building 100 meters away from the apartment, there were also eyes observing the 2 of them. 3 people appeared here. They were 3 of the 12 mysterious people who met with the doctor in the mysterious palace. One was a woman wearing a black leather tights. She was about 30 years old and exuded a mature temperament. Her black hair was curled and inserted with a hairpin on her head. Her good figure made her every move full of charm. Her delicate facial features and black smoky makeup made her look even more charming, a typical East Asian. The second person is tall, bald, and dark-skinned. He looks like a huge black rock, a typical African. His rough facial features make him look like a beast, and his face is filled with a beast-like tyranny. The last one is wearing a sophisticated black suit. He has long blonde hair that reaches his ears, black framed glasses, and a Bible in his hand. He looks like a scholar. He looks about 50 years old, and his face has some wrinkles and folds, but you can still see how handsome he was when he was young. The 12 leaders of the Doomsday Cult, Black Rose, Beast, and Scholar. They each possess powerful true power and have secured their position as leaders with absolute strength. This time, the three of them came here in person with a clear goal, which is to capture Kailan. The beast said in a low voice, "When will we start? I am already thirsty and impatient. I want to crush his bones, watch him scream, and then let him tell his secrets in pain." His face was full of cruelty and crazy fantasies. Black Rose on the side rolled her eyes at the beast. "Muscle brain, don't think about violence every day. This person is not easy to deal with. We have to wait until he steps into our trap." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1240. Wait until the trap weakens his power, then we can catch him without any risk. Read. After all, he is comparable to the king of civilization, so it is not too careful. The scholar showed a faint smile on his face. "Don't worry, the trap has been set. As long as he steps into it, everything will start. Wait until his power is almost consumed, then we will take him down in one fell swoop. As long as he falls into my hands, there will be no secrets to hide. Under my true power, no one can hide information." As he said, the scholar showed a faint smile on his face, but the other two looked at him with vigilance. Obviously, they were 120,000 points of caution and vigilance for this scholar. At this time, Lin Yi and Zhao Hengxia at the door of the apartment did not know that someone had already targeted them. Lin Yi's face was a little strange, because he looked for the target through the True Destiny solution, but did not see the source of these strange lines. "What's going on? Why didn't I see that couple?" He turned his eyes to Zhao Hengxia. "The source of the strange events here should be that couple, right?" Zhao Hengxia nodded slightly. "Yes, what? Is there any problem?" Lin Yi nodded slightly. "It's strange that I didn't find any trace of them in the apartment. Basically, I can find the source of these strange events at the scene of any strange event. But now I don't see it, which is a bit abnormal." Zhao Hengxia heard this and became alert, and her pupils shrank. Is it possible that the strange events have evolved or mutated? The recent increase in strange events is obviously abnormal, and mutations are also possible. Lin Yi heard this, and a flash of understanding flashed in his eyes, and then he was silent and thought about it. There is a certain possibility, and it is not low. Zhao Hengxia frowned slightly. "Then what should we do next?" "Give up observation for the time being." Lin Yi smiled. "Don't worry, I can try it first. No matter how it changes, at least it is impossible to kill me now." Zhao Hengxia heard this and looked at Lin Yi strangely. She was very surprised, why Lin Yi was so calm and not afraid of death. A message flashed through his mind. Is the above inference true? He blinked slightly, not knowing what he thought of. After more than 10 minutes, a car returned to the scene, and Absinthe Payvatin took Paraoman out of the car. Absinthe laughed strangely. "Boss, I brought the person to you." Lin Yi turned his head and looked at Paraoman next to him, with a faint smile on his face. "Hello, Mr. Paraoman, nice to meet you." At this time, he spoke fluent Thai, and the language was no burden to him. At this time, Paramon's face turned pale. Looking at this shabby apartment, he naturally knew where this place was, and he had heard the legend here. So he never dared to get close to this area, and never even walked in here. Looking at Lin Yi, his face was pale. "Who are you?" Lin Yi smiled at Paraoman. "My name is Lin Yi, a shop owner. I called you here this time to ask you to assist in the investigation of the couple you killed 10 years ago. Or your sister and your brother-in-law, in order to seize the only inheritance, so you tricked them here and sold them to people on the dark web for them to hunt for fun." Paramon's face changed drastically when he heard this, and his face was distorted. "You are talking nonsense, I didn't do such a thing." Lin Yi looked at him and smiled calmly. He, whether you do it or not has nothing to do with me. I didn't ask you to come here to find out the truth, but just to let you calm down your resentment." Hearing Lin Yi's words, Paramon's face changed immediately, looked around and said, "What do you want to do? I won't go in." How could he not have heard of the strange things here? He has been paying attention to this place. Hearing that the other party wanted him to calm down his resentment, he instinctively had a bad feeling. Then, he turned around and was about to flee from here, but unfortunately, a hand had silently rested on his shoulder, and the next second, he felt a distortion all around. When he came to his senses again, he and Lin Yi had already entered the lobby of the hotel. Under the power of true destiny, there was no obstruction at all. As the two of them entered the lobby of the dilapidated hotel, the entire lobby began to tremble violently. Or rather, the entire hotel had undergone a strange change. Countless black lines surged wildly, and a layer of twisted barriers appeared outside the hotel. In an instant, it seemed to have become an independent world. Lin Yi also noticed this change, frowning slightly. This was the first time he had encountered such a drastic change. What's going on? Isn't this a D-level ghost story? How could there be a phenomenon like the distortion of space-time? This seems to be an ability that only C-level or even B-level ghost stories can possess. A sense of horror rose in his heart, and a danger seemed to be approaching rapidly. He looked in the direction of the stairs, and a billowing smoke rushed here. There was a twisted figure in the smoke, and soon the smoke descended into the hall. Then it turned into a human figure, a strange one. He was 2 meters tall, with a face split in the middle, a man and a woman, covered in a black robe. The most terrifying thing was that there seemed to be another strange face on his neck, but it was not very clear. At this time, Paraman saw this strange human figure and was so scared that he sat down on the ground. "Ah, help, help. What is this?" His face turned pale and his whole body was shaking, as if he had seen the devil from hell. At this time, the two faces sewn together roared angrily, which was the overlapping voice of a man and a woman. "Paraman, how dare you? How dare you? Why do you want to hurt us? Why? I am your sister, your sister." The strange human figure roared angrily and questioned Paraman. Paraman's face was distorted, and he shook his head frantically. "It's not me, I didn't do it. It's them, they threatened me to do this. They said they would help me monopolize the inheritance. So they want me to betray you. Kill you. It's really none of my business. You have to seek revenge on them." At this time, Paraman was full of fear, unable to speak clearly, and his speech was incoherent, but he revealed a shocking information.